Any second that should kick in. There we go. Okay, everybody, as you can see, you are being recorded for this session. If you'd like a copy of the recording or even just the slides that you're seeing on the screen, let me know, sales@PharmiWeb.com, and I'll get them sent over to you. Today's session is the how to combat the rising cost of recruitment. So Vince, I'll pass over to you to start.
Lovely, thanks, Simon. Well, welcome everyone. Today's session is going to last about 20 minutes, maybe 25. We will be having Q&A at the end, and as Simon's already said, we will be sending you copies of these slides or the video should you want it. Today's session has come about due to a number of clients coming to us talking about whether or not they're doing the right things to think about their ROI and what they're doing in recruitment and how they go about that, how they calculate it, what they need to take into account, and also what are the factors in the market that are affecting them. So we've taken a lot of that information. I work with a number of the large CROs, big pharmas and biotechs, as well as recruitment companies. So hopefully we've got some information here that might actually make you rethink what you're doing, or maybe just confirm that you're doing all the right things anyway. So this is just our views based on that information. So today's session will be run by myself and Simon. Simon's going to take care of parts of this as well as myself. So we run it together and make it a little bit different and mix it up a little bit so that you don't get the same person talking all the way through. And the agenda for today. So really setting the scene, talking about what's going on in the world and what's affecting everything, how you measure cost per hire, what's happening with the job boards, because there seems to be a lot of changes going on as far as all job boards is concerned. How do you actually work out what return on investment of both time and money is? So combining those things. And then finally, some hints and tips at the end to just like a checklist really to make sure you're doing all the right things on a regular basis. So first of all, let's talk about the things that will be affecting everything. So growth areas in the market at the moment, oncology is absolutely huge. Digital and face-to-face sales harmonization is a big area because a lot of companies are looking at reducing their field force or considering whether or not they need those commercial people when they've got digital assets that do the job just as well. There's going to be a lot of activity around biotech growth. There's going to be a lot around digital health, especially with consumables and wearables. There's going to be pipeline consolidation where the big pharmas considering what of their portfolio, i.e. what products to actually bring to the market when they're looking at cost and evaluating what they can actually do right now. We're also seeing a number of companies thinking about diversification of their service portfolio, what they do, what don't they do, what do they strip out, what's actually making money, what's not, and making decisions on where they go from there. Decentralization of clinical trials is well underway, and also we've already talked about medical devices being big. But the other huge area, I think, for this year is going to come under a lot of pressure is biometrics, primarily because of the amount of data that's now in the market. And all of these things will cause problems. So when we're looking at technology, IT, and AI, there's a lot of things going on. Obviously, a lot around digital trials, complex and innovative trial designs, virtual congresses, medical and healthcare devices, and then finally digital marketing, which is taking a huge growth in the current marketplace, especially when you're looking at digital product sales and digital launches of products. But by far the biggest one, which I know everyone's been talking about, is personalized AI technology and what that can actually do. And to be honest, I get asked this question a great deal, what difference would it make? How will it change things? The answer is I don't actually know. It's okay having AI to do things, and AI does learn, but you still need a person to check it. You still need someone to look at that information and actually think about, is that the right thing to say? Is it the right tense, et cetera, et cetera. So I know AI is out there. I know it's making a difference. I think it will affect things like medical writing, even some regulatory areas, et cetera, et cetera. But no one really knows yet where the far-reaching effects of AI is going to take us. So we'll just have to wait and see. So one of the things that I think is key for saving money in recruitment generally is thinking about employee stabilization. So a lot of the clients I'm working with at the moment have pre-joining teams where they actually support people when they've been identified as someone they want to work for the organization. They've probably made them an offer and trying to bring them on board. They're giving them the right information. They're keeping in contact weekly and making introductions to other members of the team. Now, the reason for the pre-joining is really to help to stop some of the fraudulent candidates getting through the system that we're starting to see a lot more of in the industry. By doing this, you're giving more access to more people. So that one of the things that is hard to do if you're a fraudulent candidate is to actually convince everyone that you do know what you're doing. Within the first month, the key things for all employees is a development roadmap, personalized to them, thinking about what they're going to be doing in their career, where they're going, etc., etc. So they know from the outset that it's the place that they want to be. Last year, we saw a lot of people leave within the first 10 weeks of joining an organization because it wasn't quite right for them. So more support, regular reviews, evaluation of what they need, and providing them with the right training are all the key things to keep the person in place, because we know someone's not effective until they've been with you for at least 12 weeks. So you've got to get over that hurdle. Within the first year, things like regular reviews, do they fit the team? Is the work right for them? What's their performance like? And a training review of what else they need to move forward. And then moving forward, when we're looking at career development, what internal mobility options are there and regular appraisals? And this is really going down to management. Other things to consider, there's been a big push from a lot of organizations to try and bring back candidates that have retired early. Boomerang candidates are really good employees. They know the organization. If you can bring them back into the organization, they really do add value very, very quickly because they already know what they should be doing. And I think a lot of people, because of the economy, because of the instability of the world at the moment, have actually thought about going back into the work environment to actually help them. We talked about fraudulent candidates. We know, as you can see here, there's a 92% increase in candidate fraud since the pandemic. This is a big issue, and it does take up a lot of time. So one of the things that will actually help you to reduce that cost of hiring and actually keeping people is to make sure that you don't let these people in. They take up time, money, and management. They cause all sorts of legal problems, and there's consequences around safety and efficacy. So again, being aware, I suppose being more stringent about what you actually do with people, especially if you're not actually meeting them on a regular basis, make sure it is the right person all the time. Always take into account that someone you might be talking to could be a fraudulent candidate. And the other problem, I think, which is causing problems when you're trying to actually get people onto the organization, it does affect cost of hiring, because if people leave, it's not right. It's, I think about 75%, if not more, of the working population will be millennials and Gen Z within the next 18 months. So we need to make sure that the management team or the middle managers that are actually managing those people are fit for purpose. They know what skills they need. They know what the millennials need and Gen Z need to actually be successful in their careers. And it's all about flexibility and personalization. So middle management is going to become very, very important indeed. All of these things, if you get them right, will actually save you money in the long term, because you'll keep people longer, they'll be positive, and they'll be making a big contribution to the organization. So moving over to cost per hire, I'm going to pass over to Simon now. So Simon, do you want to carry on from this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. So to start a little bit on cost per hire, I wanted to start with stats, because we all like the meaty data, right? We all like to know exactly what's going on at the moment. So this is gathered from our clients, from our prospects, and also from other information sources as well. We've put all of this together and found averages. So at the moment in the UK, the average cost per hire is around £3,800, and that is pretty much internal cost. In Europe, it's more like €4,500. Agency spend at the moment is a bit higher than I've seen it in the past, with averages of around 15 to 18k. And referral, so that's including the internal cost per hire plus the referral fee, is bringing things out to about £6,000–7,000 at the moment. Time to hire has changed as well. The US, we've seen that escalate by about 10 days in the last month or two, at around 50 days now from rep going out to role filled. Europe, around 90. It's always been around the 90 sort of two mark. and the UK is lagging distinctly behind with an average of 120 days now from rec going out to job filled. That has grown exponentially in Q1 of this year. As a function, human resources are using around 15% of their entire budget on recruitment, which is a lower figure than we expected, wasn't it, Vince? That's for sure.
Yeah.
And generally, it costs about 40% of an employee's base salary to hire an employee, and that's including benefits. Another interesting fact that we've come across is small businesses are, on average, spending about 60%, 66% more on training than larger businesses. And this is great because when it comes to upskilling employees, internal mobility, retention, we're ticking all of those boxes by making sure everyone is well trained. On to the next one, please, Vince. So why does cost per hire matter? What's this figure actually going to give us? A practical use is figuring out your ROI on various tools. When we're coming up to a very expensive time, it's good to be able to cut some of the fat away from the budget. This is going to allow you to see where you're sourcing your best talent from and also figure out what tools and what processes aren't working and can be changed. On to the next one, please. So, I mean, everyone on this call is going to know how to do this, but we were specifically asked to include it because there will be some more junior people here who want to make sure that they're doing it right and also want to make sure that they've got an average of what's being done throughout the industry. So calculating cost per hire, add up your external costs and your internal costs. So that's what you're spending on recruiters, what you're spending on job boards, what you're spending on your talent acquisition, HR functions internally, all together in a given period. Let's call it 12 months. You then divide that by the resulting number of total hires in the same period. So let's say 100. You could divide it by 100 if you've hired 100 people. You're then left with the cost of onboarding your new hire from identifying them all the way through to onboarding and training. So there's a very, very simple way of breaking it down, just written there below for you. Again, we will send you the slides at the end of this. So if you are taking notes, don't worry too much. You'll have them. On to the next one. Job boards, probably one of the bigger areas of conversation. Certainly, if you've had your renewals through from your job boards for this year, you're probably having questions. You're probably wondering what's changed, why are things expensive, right? So hopefully we can answer some of that for you now. So why, first and foremost, use job boards? According to LinkedIn, roughly 60% of the job seeking population start their search for a new role on a job board, making them one of the bigger channels for job hunting globally. They also provide a really good opportunity for you to push roles outside of your network and engage people in large volumes on multiple platforms. On to the next one, please. So starting with free job boards, we all like the word free, don't we? Unfortunately, you won't find too many free job boards in pharma. You know, you can speak to people like LinkedIn and Indeed and get yourself a few credits here and there. But all in all, it is very, very hard to have a consistent thing that you can rely on that isn't going to cost you money. The benefit of using free tools is that it only requires your time. And as we know, when we're working out cost per hire, your time is already budgeted for anyway. So this isn't going to cost you anything at all. Research and data does show that posting on no-cost job boards brings in a fraction of the success of paid equivalents. But this is mostly because those first page of job results change so quickly because so many people are relying on free options. Also, all of these free job boards do have paid elements. So the minute that you pay even a very, very small amount of money, you're pushing those free jobs right to the bottom of the listings to page 27 and beyond. It does make it very, very difficult, but it can't be a bad thing to do because, as we say, it's only costing you time. So it costs as much as you put in.
Yeah, one of the things
generic.
there, sorry, Simon, just one of the things there that I picked up from a couple of clients recently on the free job board size is, again, it's a bit like going down a rabbit hole. You can actually spend a lot of time working on them for very little return. And your time does actually count. So it's very difficult to actually work that out. But, you know, if you're spending 3 hours on a paid free website to actually try and get people and you don't get anything, that's 3 hours you've lost. And sometimes time's worth more than the money side of things. Sorry, I'll move
there's
on.
No. There's some really good time solutions to talk about later, which will save money too, actually, on that point. Generic job boards, we probably all use these, right? There's your Indeed, your Total Jobs, your Monster board if you're more in the dark region. They're a great method for finding candidates. You know, your company's going to gain good exposure to a vast audience of people. You can generally set yourself a daily budget, or if you use a job board reseller, you can set yourself a flat fee. So you can run a campaign, for example. You can post multiple jobs to multiple sites through a job board reseller, which is going to save you money and time compared to going individually to each board. A lot of the job board resellers also have ATSs built into their package. So if you are on a shoestring budget, it's worth speaking to a reseller to do all of these generic job boards for you, save your time, save your money. The downside of the generic job boards is the audience of people that you're advertising to. You will have absolutely everybody applying for your roles. You will have lorry drivers applying to be quality and validation engineers. You'll have actors applying to be your pharmaceutical sales reps. You will have a lot of people that are going to be irrelevant and take up your time when you're filtering through these results. So a word of caution for sure. On to finally niche job boards. So this is where something like PharmiWeb comes in, right? As a talent acquisition portal, we do have our own niche job board attached to PharmiWeb. The benefit here is if you need to fill vacancies that require expert industry knowledge, qualifications, accreditations, that's the kind of community that a niche board will service for any industry. You get to put jobs in front of very, very qualified people that are actively searching or passively searching. So most specialist job boards have mailing lists. They have email communities, recruitment groups attached to them where they can specifically reach these candidates that you're looking for, whether it's based on the experience, the qualification, the niche within the niche. They're easier to reach. So realistically, if you have a business critical role or you're looking to expand in a certain function, so if you're looking to grow your clinical staff, your pharma sales team, whatever it might be, a niche job board is worth reaching out to have that conversation. On to the next one, please. Return on investment. So this is probably one of the keys. And again, we all know this, but we wanted to put it in just to help the more junior people here. Simply put, we're looking at an employee's efficiency and profitability versus what we spent hiring them and retaining them. So the employee lifetime value is divided by the cost of hiring and retaining to determine recruitment ROI. Most people will use a ratio or a percentage to express that result. But it's worth mentioning at this point that currently the average tenure of an employee is 2.9 years. So if you're looking to calculate ROI, realistically, you're not going to make anything in the first year of an employee's tenure. It's basically unheard of. So really, you've got 1.9 years to look at in making all your money back and some profit on them. On average, this won't be the same of everyone. On to the next one, please. So what to include in the calculation, how to work this out properly. So the first thing you need to do is calculate your first year attrition rate. And I think the last figure that we got was 40% attrition in first year. Does that ring a bell, Vince?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yes. Then what you want to do is assess your offer acceptance rate. So how often are you losing candidates out to the competition? Analyze the application completion rate. That's when the candidate clicks apply now to actually submitting the application. What's your drop off and why? You then determine the quality of hire, because not every single candidate or every single employee is going to be a money making one. If you think of people like admins, for example, they're not actively making you cash, but they are helping you by taking time away from the functions that do. So everyone gets a certain level of quality based on their job role and what they do. Not everyone's going to make you profit, but they can attribute to profit. Then you calculate the time to hire. I gave you those stats earlier. US 50 days, Europe 90 days, UK 120 days. Because again, your time is included in this cost. And finally, that cost per hire figure we spoke about earlier, you put that in there as well. All of this together will give you your return on investment quite quickly, and you'll be able to see where the blind spots are, what's gone wrong, what's gone right, and where you can trim some fat and save some money. So look at all of these things in great detail moving forward. On to the next one, please. So we want to move on to other points to consider at this point, and I'll hand over to Vince for some of this, okay?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Simon. So a couple of other things to be aware of. The biggest one, which I get back from lots of clients when we're actually talking to them about, is how many times you need to have an interaction with a candidate before they'll actually consider you as either the employer of choice or the agency they want to work for, or even someone they want to talk to about their career. And the average time for EMEA is actually 6 times. So you've got to build awareness, make them consider you, and finally make a decision to come back to you. So you need to see things like recruitment advertising, your employer branding, messaging that you're putting on LinkedIn, or whatever that might be. And you've got to catch them at the right time. So when the right time comes along, you're the person they're going to call. In America, it's actually 11 times. And the reason for that is the bombardment of information that most people in America get on their mobile devices. And all of this information literally comes on your mobile phone. So bear these things in mind. Think about the amount of times that you need to have an interaction with someone. On PharmiWeb, we run a lot of employer branded hubs. We also run a lot of .coms and personal websites for companies. And what this does is it allows us to know what candidates are looking for. So I'm just going to touch on this very quickly. Some of you might have seen these before. So on our hubs, we have 4 pages, and then we have all the roles where you can look at the roles and look at the employer branding in one place. The key things that every candidate looks like. They look at the culture. Who are you? What are your teams like? What's the global view? What's the future look like for me and the company from the day I start? Do I have diversity policies? And what are the people like in the site where I am going to be working? If you've got a candidate looking for a job in Paris, they only care about Paris. They don't care what you do in the US. They don't care what you do in the UK. These are the biggest ones. These are the career ones. These are generic across all industries. So things like career path examples, a day in life, what training am I going to get? Team lead videos. I want to see who I'm going to be working for, talking passionately about the sort of people that person wants working in their team. Great workplace videos. These are like corridor calls. What opportunities and benefits do I get at that particular site? And then finally, success stories. People talking about the organization, saying great things, saying why they absolutely love working there. 63% of all candidates will look for videos when they go into the site. I can tell you now, there's not a single candidate on PharmiWeb that will read a whole page of text unless they are really, really interested. But I can tell you now, almost 100% of people who watch a 1.5 to 3.5 minute video to find out more about an organization. So one of the other big time saving things that you can do to combat the rising costs is to actually get more video functionality. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. Other things that attract candidates, charity work and awards, and environmental sustainability policies. Get all of these things available for people to actually view and see, and it will start to save you money because it'll make them apply and speed up the whole process. And you're never, ever going to have enough time. Doesn't matter how good you are, no matter what you're doing, you're never going to have enough time to do everything. So again, going back to what we're saying, you need to work out from a return on investment point of view, what's working and what's not working, and then where you go from there. When we're looking at time planning, I've added this in because a lot of people have asked me about this because it really does save some time. And I work on a plan that I try and help people with most of the time. And it's all around work-life balance. It's bringing in Sunday, it's bringing in Saturday, and it's bringing in the working week. And you break the working week up into set hours. And these are the amount of hours you can allocate to any task. By breaking it down into an hour, it makes you think about, don't go down the rabbit hole going on LinkedIn and turning your head up 4 hours later for a cup of tea thinking, oh, what did I do in that 4 hours? Limit your time on certain things so that you know what's working. How long you spend in writing recruitment advertising? How long are you looking at training people? How much time you spend in looking at their training, their functionality, what they're doing? When you're trying to recruit people and actually bring them into your organization, what's the best thing to do? How do you evaluate that? All of these things need to be taken into account. If you start working on a weekly calendar like this that really breaks down your time and man hours, it will make a huge difference. The best times to contact people, are normally between 10 and 12 in the morning and 2 and 4 in the afternoon. Best days, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So think about all of those things as you move forward, and it will help. The other thing to think about AI, and we did touch on it earlier, there's a couple of key things. So we've deployed a lot of advanced AI, and I know advanced AI is coming to the industry as a whole. The key thing is personalized experience for job seekers. Everything we do is now personalized to that individual, even though we've got over 500,000 people coming onto PharmiWeb every single month. We make the content tailored, targeted, and relevant for them and the job searching they're doing. We also build into this real-time automated abandonment emails. So if someone fails to fulfill an application, what we do is we email them 3 times afterwards to remind them to fulfill that application, because we know the change from moving from your mobile device onto your desktop gives you a drop-off of about 32% of candidates. Automated abandonment emails will actually restrict that. And then the other thing that we're doing is we're restricting and excluding job seekers from particular locations. There is no point in getting 20, 30, 40 candidates from India if they can't work in the UK or Spain or wherever it is in Europe. So we actually stop them at that point and explain that situation to them. There's a lot of things that the AI is doing. It's so advanced, it's so clever, it's actually quite scary. But all of these things got to slowly filter in and actually will help you as we move forward. Other things around LinkedIn, post every day. If you can't think of what to say or to do, use the AI to actually help you with that. One of Simon's rules that I particularly like we put on here, which is the 4x4x2 rule. Simon, do you want to quickly talk to people about that?
Yeah, okay. So this is based on optimizing your LinkedIn usage to make sure that you're actually being seen by people, which, if you're trying to build a personal brand, is incredibly important, and you're trying to reach candidates, is incredibly important. Quite simply, it's like 4 posts and comment on 4 different posts 2 times a day, and that's going to make you appear very, very highly in your connections, view basically. That way, it makes it easier for you to have conversations and attract people to have conversations with you.
Yeah, that's very good. It's quite clever. I actually took on that rule because I used to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and it was starting to annoy me. But the 4x4x2 rule works really well and it allows you to actually utilize more time.
Yes.
The other thing is get your personal brand out there, get people to know who you are and want to come to speak to you where possible, and always optimize your profile. Make sure you're regularly posting things and have a view. Always have a view. One of the things that we're about to deploy on PharmiWeb is a new system where we're inviting people to come in and we're calling it Your View. So we're getting speakers to talk about what's their view on the market. So look out for those. They'll be coming out and I think you'll find them quite interesting. So when you're looking at omnichannel recruitment, also think about all the other places. If you're going to put a job ad out, or you're going to put a message out, put it on your own website, put it on LinkedIn, put it in generic and niche job boards and other social media channels, including blogs. Blogs are really useful if you can log into the right ones, especially around regulatory, clinical research, etc. Use the blogs because they do work. And also think about your social media influence. Everything that you do will influence what's going on. So if you're looking at employer hubs or your employer branding and your messaging on the employer branding and your recruitment assets, there you go into a sphere of activity. All of your corporate branding and your local assets also go into a sphere of activity. And your products and brand, what you're actually selling, what you're actually offering, goes into a sphere of activity. They all overlap. So don't think for a moment that there's anything that you're doing that's not being picked up, because it will be, and it comes up more regularly than you think. So the other thing I try and push to people is to think about a marketing schedule. Be aware of what's coming up. Don't leave things to the last minute, because one of the things that will really help you when you're looking at trying to sort of save costs is making sure that you don't miss deadlines. Get your advertising out, get newsletters out, get press releases out, and don't miss them. So the way I work it is you go from January through to December and you have a critical, non-critical and an optional list of things to do. And what one of these actually looks like is this. So what we try and do is to think about a plan. So things like getting adverts right, getting banners, newsletters, recruitment plan, get them all programmed in as to when you're going to be doing them and make sure everyone's aware and they're actually on those courses. I had a course last week with a large company. There was 112 people turn up, which sounds like a lot, but it should have been 142. The others didn't turn up because they weren't aware. They should have been aware because it does cost money to put things on. Things like articles you're going to do, training, support, case studies, etc., etc. Get it all programmed in a year in advance sometimes so that you can get other people to help. This will help to reduce your cost because people will be aware you've got things done on time and you won't panic about it. If you want more information on how this actually works, come back to us and we'll be happy to discuss it with you in more detail. And then I finally put in a salaries review that we picked up from Rian Fisher. We can send you this whole survey, but on average, you're looking at nearly a 12% increase across the board. And that's because of the economy and what's going on in the current market. The other thing that we saw a lot of towards the end of the year was companies paying a dividend to employees of around £1,500 to actually help with the economic situation and help with their energy bills. These weren't included on those uplifts, so bear those things in mind. And finally, we already talked about this, 63% of candidate searches they're always looking for video. So where you've got video, where you can create video, get it up, because it will actually reduce your cost in hiring, because people will see it and they want to come and work for you. So video is becoming quite important. So some key points. Think about retention, internal mobility, and personalization. The number one is going to keep the people you've got. You won't have to go and hire people in the beginning anyway. Do a little bit of everything everywhere. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Always think about omni-channel. Cover all the bases. If you're going to create something, you're going to put the time into it. Use it in as many places as you possibly can. Utilize your existing tools properly, especially online tools and digital tools. Make sure they're being used. If they're not, get rid of them. Save the money. Put recruiters on retainer, the ones that you're actually working with. If you do work with recruiters, get them working for you a lot more selectively. Get them putting the effort into you as an organization. You're going to have to pay the fee anyway. You might as well get the service. Trim down your hiring process. Anything that you can actually remove to make the process faster, especially in EMEA when we're trying to reduce that 120 days, will actually benefit to the organization. Plan your year in advance. We've talked about that in the last session. Use multi-posters and resellers wherever you can, especially if they're free of charge. If they're not, if they're minimal, it might be worth considering. Again, constantly evaluate, think about your return on investment. Spend time and money on your EVP and your employer branding, because it pays off hugely. And never forget force majeure. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going on in the world. You don't know what's going on in an individual's world. So always think about things that are out of your control. Try and account for everything, but be aware that you can react to things or not when they happen. But force majeure happens whether we like it or not. And then finally, same conclusion that I've been using for some time now. It's going to be busy this year. It's had a quiet start in Q1. I think from Q2 onwards, it's going to really start to take off. So have a very clear strategic view of what your recruit needs are. Work with hiring managers or your clients to find out what they're going to be looking for over the entire year, just as a view, and make sure that you're ready for that. It's going to be business as usual with a touch of caution, but be agile enough to adapt to the change in the market as it happens. Because when it does happen, people are going to need help and support very, very quickly. But more importantly, ring fence those employees internally with competitive packages and benefits. Don't go over the top, but make sure that they're competitive and people are happy. Make sure they're given the flexibility they need to actually be able to do their job and have a good work-life balance. We're still seeing a number of people that, from a well-being point of view, are not doing so well. So be aware of those people, and it will help as you move forward. So, any questions?
Yeah, we've got a few here, and if anyone has any more they want to add, just use the chat function at the top and you can put them either to me directly or to everyone to see. So the first one is, how do we attract back boomerang candidates? Is it okay to approach them directly, or are there other ways?
No, I think that's a great idea. People going back to those boomerang candidates or going back to employees that have left the organization, especially if they were good and they made a huge contribution to the business, or even if they did a job that was a little bit unusual and fulfilled a number of different roles. So definitely approach them, get them back on board, because they were good. And unfortunately, shouldn't have lost them in the first place. It's just one of those things.
The next one is the data on fraudulent candidates is disturbing. Do you think it's going to continue to be prevalent this year?
Oh, very much so. I think it's here to stay, unfortunately, and it's not just one or two individuals. It's groups, it's gangs. In America, it's worse than it is here, but I think there are certain countries in Europe that are starting to prove difficult, to say the least. They take up a lot of time, they cause a lot of legal issues, and cost a lot of money. Be aware. Talk to people, make sure they talk to other people in the organization from the outset. Don't just offer them a job and then don't talk to them again for a month or so, because it might be a different person that comes back. Someone who can't do the job that you won't find out about for a number of weeks.
Yeah. We recently used a generic jobs board and it didn't prove very effective. Why is it that they've become so expensive?
I think it's the cost of actually attracting candidates to the site. I mean, the big generic boards, they've had to put the prices up because they've realised that you've got to attract people. And if we look at our site alone, we spend around 60% of our net profit on candidate attraction. You've got to spend that much, so it is expensive. And the days of spending 50 quid on an advert are sadly gone.
Mm.
If you want the right people, you've got to pay for it one way or another.
Also, these large generic job boards generally have hundreds of people working for them. Their staffing costs have gone through the roof, just like everyone
Yep.
else's. Unfortunately, they're passing that on to you, the consumer.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
How will AI continue to impact our recruitment strategies? So I couldn't quite read that.
um, to be honest, I think we're all sitting here looking at AI, thinking, where's it going to go? What's it actually going to do? How's it going to affect us? Um, you know, are we going to be taken over by Terminators? The answer to that question
Yes.
is, I actually just don't know. I think AI is actually very good. There are some places where it's great. We've all been on the, Chat GDP, et cetera, and it does come up with some very good results. However,
Mm.
that'll all be paid services in the future. So AI, I think, will make a difference, but I think it's going to be expensive. So we'll have to wait and see.
I've got two more. You mentioned that 63% of candidates look at video. Are you seeing more video used in job adverts themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I've been pushing for the last year is for people to make more videos. Short, sweet, to the point. It's got to be 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes, ideally shorter rather than longer, filmed on an iPhone or an iPad or any mobile device. No professional actors, just get people to talk about the actual role themselves. And that seems to really resonate with candidates. There's normally a link on there that they can follow afterwards that they can go and get more information on. So we're all looking at, if you look at our figures alone, we're looking at, I think it's 88 or 89% of candidates now initially find information on their mobile phone. So let's give them the information they need in the format they want it in, and they want it in video. So yeah, the more of that, the better.
Mm. Coming up to the last question now. If anyone does have another one, please do drop it. Why is the time to hire increasing, and what can we do to address this?
Time to hire is increasing primarily because candidates have got more choice. So it's taking longer for people to make decisions. If you've got someone that's on the market, typically what they've got is maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 offers, and they wait for all the information to come through before they make the acceptance. So across Europe, generally you're looking at 92 days as an average. And it's actually starting to elongate. America is probably the one that's been hit the worst because they're not used to having to wait for people to join, and that's starting to come into their figures, which is why it's starting to affect the business now. It's just one of those things. When we're in a market where we just don't have enough people, you're always going to get this where it's people have got more choice. They can decide on what they want to do.
Absolutely. Also, we have the other things to consider. The way that organizations are being run, particularly since the pandemic, people are being given a lot more time, downtime, basically.
Mm,
You've got a lot of companies embracing the 4-day work week, for example. That has a knock-on effect because it's taking longer to do some things. Normally, when you're trying to go after a hiring manager to get feedback on a candidate or to supply you with a job spec, that's the thing that they're going to let slip first because they're focusing on the day job, aren't they?
absolutely, yeah,
Everything has a consequence.
absolutely. Okay, any others, Simon?
That is actually all of the questions. I
Okay.
can see someone is currently typing one now, so I might give them 20 seconds or so. But I guess to summarize what we've talked about so far, what's your biggest takeaway, Vince?
I just think people being aware of all the things they need to take into account. We've covered a lot in this presentation. If we go back up to those points, just keep that on the wall basically, and just say, did I think about all those points today? Have I seen it this week? It's one of the
Yeah.
reasons we put the slides together. And bear in mind, this has come down from large, middle, and small size CROs, big farmers, middle-sized farmers, and biotechs. Everyone's got the same issues. I've
Mm.
even taken on board some feedback from recruitment companies that have also had some issues that they had to consider as well. So this is sort of generically what we've got so far. Whether people take a heed of this and do something about it or not is really down to them.
My key takeaway point is to utilize your existing tools properly. After this call, look at all the things you're using, book calls with your account managers, and see what you can do to utilize what you're already paying for. everyone is going to want to retain you in your business. So it's really important that you go and speak to those people now and make sure that you're getting the best ROI on your tools.
Yeah, that's a good one. Use the tech stack properly.
Absolutely. I would say that brings us to the end of everything. That question looks like it was abandoned. So I'm going to stop the recording there, okay?
Okay, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time, and we'll, if you want any information, come back to us afterwards. Thanks, Pamela.
Thanks, everybody. Have a lovely day today, okay? Thank you.